Let's hit some NFL rumors now. I am your host, Tom Downey, breaking down the latest as we get closer and closer to the start of the real NFL season, just a few weeks away now. Let's discuss Michael Thomas and his situation as it relates to a future with the New Orleans Saints. Now, as we'll get into in depth, I don't think a trade happens. But I am a believer of where there's smoke, there's some fire. And there's clearly some issues here between Michael Thomas and the New Orleans Saints. Multiple reports, some back and forth there. Michael Thomas allegedly ignored the Saints' calls for months and then delayed his ankle surgery. Now he's probably going to miss time in the regular season. That's all, frankly, bad for Michael Thomas and for New Orleans. Now, Thomas is with the team now, and Sean Payton had this to say after the preseason game in which, Payton was hanging out there. Quote, "He is a part of the team. It was great seeing him. He is ahead of schedule. He was excited to be around these guys, and we were excited to have him. But it wasn't this big kumbaya moment." And I think for the Saints and Thomas, this is going to be a bit of a process as it relates to getting things back on the right track. But in all likelihood, Thomas is going to miss time because of the timing of his ankle surgery, which appears to have been delayed for reasons that we don't really know. It was heavily implied by the Saints that Thomas didn't get it done when he needed to, and that's a really bad look. So for the Saints, without Michael Thomas, this receiving core is not great. Traquan Smith, this is the breakout year at long last. Marquez Callaway has showed some promise in camp in the preseason. Deontay Harris has some own legal issues there. They've brought in guys like Chris Hogan. They signed former Bears legend Kevin White, that former first-round pick, as they've tried to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Maybe Ty Montgomery gets a look at receiver after playing some running back receiver hybrid stuff in recent years. But none of these guys is Michael Thomas. When at his best, this is one of the most reliable high-volume receivers in the NFL. 40 catches, 438 yards in last year. Limited time due to injury. Not the guy that we are so accustomed to, the well over 100 catches. Now, there had been plenty of trade rumblings, I'm going to call it out there, around Michael Thomas. And although this is possible, I would be very surprised if the Saints were to say, you know what? We're done. We're going to trade Michael Thomas. And the biggest reason there, beyond the talent, is the money. Thomas's cap hit this year, a meager $10.1 million, profoundly affordable. If they cut him right now, $0 are saved on this year's cap, and they are eating $32.8 million in dead money spread out over this year and next year. It's not very team-friendly. If they were to trade him, they would save $1 million in a trade, and they would eat $31.8 million due over the next 2 years. Now, if they wait to next year, $2 million if they cut him once the year ends, $15.8 million if cut or traded after June 1st. So I think in all likelihood, we're probably about a year away from a true Michael Thomas move. I can't rule it out if things remain iffy between these two parties, but Thomas knows the Saints are better with him, and I think the Saints know that as well if he's actually healthy. So what do you guys think? What is the percent chance that Michael Thomas is on the Saints next season? Get your votes in for me right now in the comments section. I did want to briefly hit one of the, unfortunately, top, or worst maybe is the better phrase there, first-round busts in recent years. That is Josh Rosen. He's been released by the 49ers. Rosen said he wasn't getting enough reps during practice, which, duh, you got Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, best case, your quarterback 3 if you're Rosen. And guess what ended up not being the case for Rosen and the 49ers. This now leaves Rosen in rather rare territory, looking to join his 5th team since the end of the 2018 season. That's wild. Now, I liked Rosen a lot coming out of UCLA. I thought he could be a legitimate franchise quarterback. I thought he had the arm, the accuracy, and the intangibles, and the stuff would come along. He'd become, if he had a good offensive line, he'd be solid. I cannot, unfortunately, defend Josh Rosen anymore. I was wrong, and we're always wrong all the time about draft process. That's how it works, right? The truth is, with Josh Rosen, he's bad. There's no way around it, guys. He is simply not a good football player. The 10th overall pick out of UCLA in 2018, I thought he had franchise quarterback ability. He lasts 1 year in Arizona. No, not the best spot, but he wasn't very good. He goes to Miami. Not a great offensive line, but he was worse than the other quarterbacks they had. He goes to the Bucs, hangs down the practice squad, and then jumps ship. Goes to San Francisco, and now gets cut. 5 teams since 2018 is an unprecedented figure. Really think 4 teams were wrong about him? Seems unlikely. I think the reality is he's a locked-in bust in the NFL. Now, I'll try to keep this a little bit more light and fun since that was kind of a sad story. You have to keep one now. If you had to roster one guy on your 53-man roster, who would it be? Type TT for Tim Tebow or type in JR for Josh Rosen. Which one would you keep? You have to keep one, whatever role you want it to be, on your 53-man roster. Literally no wrong answers here. Type TT for Tim Tebow or type in JR for Josh Rosen. I want you guys right now to subscribe as well because we have fun here at NFL Daily. And with the season now here, NBA free agency winding down, NFL's taking back over at Chat Sports. If you want the best NFL videos for free, by the way, hit that big red button and subscribe. Let's hit Everson Griffen and the Minnesota Vikings now, as the reunion might be going down. The Vikings have brought in Everson Griffen for a workout today, and that is Wednesday. And I would not be surprised if a move comes in the not-too-distant future. Now, Griffen played for the Vikings from 2010 to 2019. I can't read what's right on screen in front of me. Now, Griffen ran into some issues more recently when he had some mean things to say about Kirk Cousins, and in the end, apologized, saying Kirk Cousins, quote, is ass. And that's not generally someone you try to bring back into your locker room. It's a bit unusual to see it, but the Vikings could use someone like an Everson Griffen. Last year, splitting time with the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions, he had 33 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks. He also chipped in 14 quarterback hits. Now, he was very slow to start the year, but was better as the year went along. And I think that's a big deal, even though he's an older player, but I think that's a good indication of what he could be for Minnesota if he were to return. Now, Griffen in his time with Minnesota was one of the best pass rushers that team has seen really over their history. He's not like a Hall of Famer by any means, but a good football player. 35.5 tackles for loss, 8.6 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, and of course we averaged it because it's an average, right? In his time with Minnesota, almost 18 quarterback hits. He was pretty good for the most part for about 8 sacks a year. And those guys in general normally aren't just available in mid to late August. That's a pretty rare situation for a player of Griffen's caliber, even if he was a bit, on the decline. Now, Minnesota's in a unique spot at edge, where Danielle Hunter is back, at least for now. They added Stephen Weatherly, kind of a reunion there. They've got young guys, Jalen Holmes, DJ Wonham, Patrick Jones, Janarius Robinson, Kenny Willekes. They've got some young players. But I think meeting with Griffen is an indication that Minnesota isn't quite sold yet as it relates to that young defensive end room. And if Griffen can come back for 1 year in a scheme that we know he fits in, I mean, it's Mike Zimmer's son is the co-DC these days, like that situation could be an ideal one for Everson Griffen. That situation could be perfect for Griffen to fit and be the guy as a stopgap option for Minnesota. So we'll see what happens on that front. But let's say you're the GM. Do you want the Vikings to bring back Everson Griffen? Get your votes in for me right now in the comments section. You can type in Y for yes or N for no. In case you guys missed it, the update here on Deshaun Watson. We'll spend a little bit of time on it here. In case you haven't heard the news, Deshaun Watson is being investigated by the FBI. That has been confirmed multiple times, not by the FBI, but by the lawyers involved for both sides, Deshaun Watson and Rusty Harton, and Tony Buzbee for the alleged victims of Deshaun Watson. The FBI has met, by the way, with several of the plaintiffs here. There are now multiple investigations ongoing into Deshaun Watson. Beyond the civil lawsuits, it has grown beyond that now. The FBI is investigating him because, well, he did it over Instagram DMs. He flew women in for the massages. If it's proven true, which again, we will let the court and the legal system do and play out and, have its course, that could be human trafficking charges for Deshaun Watson. Houston PD is investigating. Allegedly, the Harris County DA has sent out subpoenas for a grand jury, which could lead to an indictment soon of Deshaun Watson. The FBI, they're investigating, and so is the NFL. There's a lot of potential issues here for Deshaun Watson, both on the field and off the field. Because on the field right now, he's kind of stuck in Houston. He is listed by the team as quarterback 4, which is insane given, what Deshaun Watson is, a franchise quarterback. He got reps with the scout team. The scout team, guys, during training camp as a safety. I've never, ever seen that in my entire life. Tyrod Taylor looks like the stopgap guy. Maybe Davis Mills is the future, but that might be asking a bit too much out of a rather raw third-round pick out of Stanford. It's all just such a wild situation for a player that on the field, if it were not for the on-field issues, I think we could all agree, wouldn't be in Houston. He'd be somewhere like in Miami or Philadelphia or Denver or something as that team's franchise savior. Instead, he's stuck in a pretty crazy situation where he's not impacting Houston on the field. He's barely involved at all in camp in the preseason, just not working out so he doesn't get hurt. And then also stuck with these massive and significant and severe accusations off the field. All of those things put Watson in a rather almost unprecedented situation as it relates to Houston. So we'll have to see what happens going forward.